Activist Radio is on the air. You've tuned into the Mark Harrington Show.
Sponsored by Created Equal.
Time is running out for our nation. I beg of you, you need to stand against the evil that's plaguing our nation.
If you don't like abortion, don't have one.
The only thing that can be said to be objective truth is that there is no objective truth.
Like, you kill a baby fetus, the same thing as killing any old inanimate object.
I would argue that we certainly are not all created equal.
Mark is training a new generation of leaders
to take on the culture of death and win.
You young people, it's your movement now. It's not your parents anymore.
The blood that is shed cries out to God from the ground for justice.
And now, here's Mark.
The Mark Harrington Show, another episode of your radio activist here. And we appreciate you tuning in and listening as well on terrestrial radio. We're broadcast in Ohio on some stations as well as West Virginia. We also come to you from all of my social media sites as well as all the popular podcasting platforms. You can pick up the Mark Harrington Show, and you can find out more by going to markharringtonshow.com. Your radio activist. And today what we're going to be talking about is abortion solely a woman's issue. That's what we're going to be talking about on the program today. We're also going to be talking about abortion victim photography. Now, if you know me, you know that's what I do. We share the pro-life position using the tools of abortion victim photography and video on high school and college campuses all across America. And we've been doing that for a decade now. So we're going to talk about that. You know, a lot of people have different points of view on that, and we want to kind of discuss that as well on the program. And to do that, we're going to have as my guest Cameron Cote, who is with the Canadian Centre for Bioethical Reform. Cameron, thanks for being on the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark. Good to be on.
Good to be with you. So Cameron and I know each other because let's go back a little bit in memory lane here. I was with the Center for Bioethical Reform, which is the American affiliate, for 10 years, working for Greg Cunningham. Stephanie Gray and Jojo Ruba, way back in the day, 1999, I think, formed the Canadian Center for Bioethical Reform, which is loosely affiliated with the national, the American organization. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I've gotten to know some of our friends on the Canadian side of this debate. And so with Cameron and some of the others, I've traveled with them. We've been to Florida recently over the years, taking the Genocide Awareness Project to that state. And so obviously we've had some connections over the years as we travel North America. And so I wanted to bring him on the program because Cameron is the co-host of a podcast called Pro-Life Guys. And, I think it's a really good idea, by the way, to talk about this. Obviously, I'm a pro-life guy, right? I'm a pro-life guy. A lot of people think that women are the only ones who should have a position on abortion. Nothing could be further than the truth. You're a pro-life guy, right?
Yep, sure am.
Although, you know, when people on college campuses come up and say, you're a man, you can't address abortion, I'll just say, are you sure? Are you sure? You know, nowadays you can play along with that a little bit. Are you sure I am?
Yeah.
But we do believe in genders, actually. So there are male and female. And you're a pro-life guy. Let's talk about that, because this has been very over the decades that abortion has been decriminalized here in the United States and in Canada. The abortion advocates have been very successful in framing this as solely a woman's issue, which immediately kind of cancels out half the population. Why is it a man's issue as well?
Because at the end of the day, it's a human rights issue. and that
Hmm.
anyone who can look at an injustice and recognize it to be an injustice, I think has an important role in trying to end that injustice. I often, I mean, the first question I often ask is it okay if I have a voice if I support abortion? Are guys
Hmm.
allowed to be involved in the movement if they
Right.
support abortion? And almost always they say, oh, yeah, by all means, they
Of
can support a
course.
woman's right to choose. And
Right.
so it's not a matter of whether or not men are allowed to be involved. It's whether or not anybody's allowed to disagree, is generally what it comes down to.
Right.
But at the end of the
So you
day,
could be a pro-choice man, but you can't be a pro-life man.
exactly, exactly. And
That's the way
and
they
it,
want.
it's funny how often I invite people to talk to my female colleagues, of whom I have many, and they say, "Oh no, I don't want to talk to them either." And so I think at the end of the day, though, we got to ask the question: is this a human rights issue? Is
Right.
abortion the direct and intentional killing of an innocent human being? And if it is, then it doesn't matter whether or
It doesn't
not you
matter.
personally go through this or not. You can defend the lives of innocent human beings. I often make the example of about 15 months ago or so, my daughter was born, my firstborn child, and obviously 9 months before that, her life began. Before that, I wasn't a parent. And
Mhm.
it would have been kind of weird for me to give parenting advice to people who
Right.
are parents. And
Right.
so when it comes to like the best thing to put in your kid's lunchbox or something like that, I probably didn't know the best answer to that. But when it comes to whether or not parents could kill their born children, nobody could turn around
Right.
and say to me, Cam, you don't have born kids. You don't know how frustrating, how irritating, how stressful it is. You have no idea. You can't be involved in whether or not parents can kill their born kids because you yourself are not a parent.
Right. Right.
If that goes for born kids, why not for preborn kids?
Exactly. And arguments don't have genders, people do. So it's an
Exactly.
ad hominem logical fallacy. We understand it, but the pro abortion uh, industry has been very successful in framing it that way. You know, it's interesting now with all the debate about gender issues and how gender is fluid and all of that, how some of those who support abortion are now starting to, you know, they can't make that argument that it's only a woman's issue. So they
Mhm.
can't have it both ways, right?
Exactly. And I hope that this gives us an opportunity as their own
Right.
language crumbles around them to get in
Hmm.
there and talk about whether or not the biology is clear. Obviously, that human life begins at fertilization, and does it matter whether or not you are personally involved? I mean, there are men and women who die from abortion. Obviously,
Right.
little baby boys, baby girls who are dying from abortion.
That's right.
There are men obviously involved in abortion decisions. I think it's important to recognize that men are often a huge part of the problem, coercing and
Absolutely.
pushing their significant others towards abortion. And it's time that men start standing up and start defending the lives of the weak and vulnerable, start doing their role when it comes to actually protecting and defending their spouses, their girlfriends, and their children, obviously, more so than any.
Yeah. So I'm talking to Cameron Cote with the Canadian Center for Bioethical Reform, who also has a podcast. And you can find out more about that by going to prolifeguys.com. That's a podcast that he co hosts. I think it's once a week or so on a lot of these issues, right? The issues, the pro life issues, how to speak intelligently to culture that supports abortion. So you can
Mhm.
find out more about it by going to prolifeguys.com. You know, Cameron, as a man myself, I speak to men a lot, especially at the abortion centers as they're going inside. I appeal to their manliness, to their maleness, if you will, to the fact
Mhm.
that men should be protectors of women and children. I've never understood how the feminist movement has gotten away with calling this, abortion a good thing. That that's actually helping women and women's rights. If anything, this just gives men a way to get off the hook. Simply, they can go about their lives, have sexual relationships, be promiscuous, and then, if they get someone pregnant, they could just say, "I'm out of here. Here's a couple $100. Go take care of it." And the relationship's broken most of the time, and they're on to their next, woman to exploit. So I've
Mhm.
never understood how the feminist movement has gotten away with this when it simply has been destructive to them.
Yeah, and it's something that, I mean, we talk to a lot of fellows, obviously, in our street outreach, whether on university
Right.
campuses or wherever it may be, and just talking to men about exactly what you said, being men and standing up. I remember
Hmm.
last February we were down in Florida, and we were talking to people outside of an abortion facility there, and just encouraging the men who were marching their wives, their girlfriends into the abortion facility of, what do you think
Right.
she'd say if you stand by her? This
Exactly.
idea of I'm going to support my girlfriend, my wife, whatever she decides. No, what if you took a little bit of leadership in this as well and said, "Hey, I am here for you. I am going to do what needs to be done to make sure that we can make the best life possible for our child, and I'm going to help answer some of these questions. I might not be able to answer all of them, but I'm in this with you." And a lot of the girls started looking at the guy. Are you going to say this to me? Are you going to step up to the plate and actually be a man and take responsibility, or are you just going to be a child and want to have all of your fun and all of your freedom and then pretend to be supporting women's rights by pushing your girlfriend or wife into an abortion facility to fix a problem that you don't want to have to invest your time and effort into resolving over the long run?
Yeah, it's definitely a cop out. I mean, they definitely
Hmm.
get away with just walking away from the responsibility. And I think that's why one of the main reasons why it's important that pro-life men speak up, that they're a big part of this movement, despite the feminist movement saying they aren't. And I'll also say inside the pro-life movement, there's also people that believe that men shouldn't be speaking that often. I think that's the wrong position to take. I don't think we should buy into the lie that this is a woman's issue and only women can speak to it. In fact, if men started standing up, we'd see abortion numbers drop big time. And, because here's the thing, and you know this, men are warriors. They're looking for a fight. They want something they can, do that has purpose and meaning. And I've been calling out men for a long time. We need you on the front lines. We need you in the battle. We need you leading the battle often. And so if you want to get involved with our organization, folks, you can go to createdequal.org. We're happy to bring as many men as possible on our team. We're about 50-50 right now, but we're always looking for pro-life men to join us, pro-life guys. But you can join us at createdequal.org. We have a day of action this summer that you can be part of. This would be the first, probably the best way to get involved is come to a training of ours, and then we take you out on the street the next day. That's the day of action. That's June 13 and 14 here in Columbus, Ohio. You can come to our training, and I know you guys do this in Canada as well. This is kind of a shortened version of our Justice Ride, where we just give you a little bit of information, then we take you out and help you to use it. So you can go to createdequal.org, find out more about the day of action. Cameron, before we move on to the next topic here, and that is abortion victim photography and how you guys are pioneering that in Canada, I want to raise an issue that I thought was very interesting. I hadn't thought about this a whole lot when I interviewed Jonathan Van Maren, which is with your organization as well.
Hmm.
What is the role of pornography when it comes to men not being willing, and I don't know if you've heard this argument, not being willing to
Oh,
step up and take a role in the pro-life fight?
I feel like, I mean, I feel like pornography is destroying so much of our society. I have spoken personally to dozens of men who feel
Mhm.
like, oh well, I can't
Right.
challenge people to be better. I can't challenge people to be more because of my own porn addiction, because I'm in the grips of this. And I feel like once I kick porn, then I can get involved in pro-abortion. But it's just I don't know if it's a guilt thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think that, I mean, first of all, obviously, men absolutely kick porn. Stop watching porn, period.
Mhm. Yeah.
But if that's a journey that you're on and you're getting professional help, you don't need to be porn free to be able to oppose abortion. You need to get
No,
involved. You need to be porn free as quickly as possible. But I think that this is debilitating for a lot of men
it is.
because it's a very, very potent example of their own weakness. That
Their own
that they are
weakness and exploitation of women. I mean, that's one of the
exactly.
reasons why they say, "Oh, I can't do any I can't stand for the preborn. I can't defend women because I'm exploiting them by viewing pornography." And the numbers are staggering. 8 out of 10 men generally are looking at this stuff,
Yeah.
and it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse, but it certainly is. I often ask when I get opportunity on college campus. I ask if I get to the point where I could talk to them. I'll ask them if they're looking at porn because
Yeah.
a lot of men mistreat women because of pornography. They see
Yeah.
them as a commodity of of some It just dehumanizes them.
Yeah, and I've thankfully seen a few guys who have kicked their porn addiction when they realized the abortion connection to it. Well, I mean, when you
Hmm.
consider all of this sex that's happening, and there are babies who are conceived
That's
during
exactly
pornography
right.
shoots and all that kind of thing, and how many abortions, how many children are being killed literally because of your porn addiction, because you're fueling this
That's
issue. I've
exactly right.
seen men and I've talked to men who have kicked their porn addiction because you know what? If that woman that I'm objectifying anyway, something I got to kick for that reason anyways. But if she becomes
Right.
pregnant because of this porn shoot that I'm watching, and she has an abortion, she kills that child, and she did that because of the demand from men globally, but especially in North America here. I think that should weigh heavily on the conscience of men and fuel them getting that professional help and kicking their porn addictions, both for the two reasons that you laid out, the objectification of women, first of all, and also because the pornography industry is fueling abortions.
Hmm.
I can only imagine how many abortions are performed on people
Hmm.
involved in that industry.
Yeah. My guest is Cameron Cote. He's a graduate of the University of Victoria in British Columbia, correct? Is it British
Yes,
Columbia?
it's
Yes,
true.
sorry, I'm not a Canadian, so I don't.
No.
And you hold a degree in biology. I'm sure that comes in helpful when you're on college campuses. And he's also the Western Outreach Director for the Canadian Center for Bioethical Reform. And we're talking about what it means to be a pro-life man today on the program. But I want to switch gears a little bit, Cameron, and talk about Canada
Mhm.
and the abortion issue. It's different than America, obviously, different country, but your laws are different. Uh, in America, 1973, Roe v. Wade handed down. We're still battling away here. Our laws are more restrictive than yours. If you could just give us kind of a snapshot of where Canada is on the abortion issue.
Yeah, so 1969 was the first time abortion really became available. They set up Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, who Justin Trudeau being our current prime minister,
Hmm.
first opened up abortion access in 1969 with their omnibus bill, allowing it for health of the mother and other situations where a three-person therapeutic abortion committee would decide whether or not a woman's case was sufficient for her to get an abortion. 1988 ruled that out. And so since 1988, abortion has been completely legal throughout all 9 months of pregnancy
Wow.
for any reason or no reason. And so individual clinics it's their own prerogative to set their own limits. I know the abortion facility here in Calgary, I don't think performs abortions beyond 22 weeks or so. After that, they have to go to a hospital. But one way or another, if a woman wants to have an abortion in Canada, she's going to get it. It's going to be covered by tax dollars. All abortions in Canada are covered by tax dollars, and that includes the traveling for late term abortion, wherever that may need to be. And so every year in Canada, there's around 100,000 abortions performed nationwide. Obviously, the majority of those are performed before 12 or 15 weeks gestation, but many of them as well, a noticeable several thousand per year probably being performed after that child is viable to live outside the womb. And so we are living in a very, very tough situation. We're working hard to change the culture. And not only that, we're shipping hundreds of millions of dollars overseas to fund abortion elsewhere. And so it's a bleak outlook in Canada, unfortunately.
It is a little different than America in the fact that we've elected pro-life presidents. We have Congresses that are either Republican or Democrat. You guys are kind of a one-party rule up there. You don't have a whole lot of legislation restricting abortion, let alone banning it.
Hmm.
We're having some success in the states, although I think at this point it looks kind of grim on our end of things, for at least in the short run. But
Hmm.
let's talk about what CCBR does. And I know we're down to about 6 minutes in the program, but you guys use abortion victim photography. Obviously, I talk about this on the program quite regularly. But the arguments against it are this, basically. First of all, people say, well, it's counterproductive. You're only going to drive people away. You guys use these on these images on in Canada on the street corners and so forth. What is your response to that? Does it drive people away or not?
So it might drive people away from becoming my Facebook friend. They might not like me quite as much as they would if I was out there with a much friendlier
Right.
picture. But it also and much more actively drives them away from abortion. We've done polling to
That's the
gauge the
point.
impact just of viewing abortion victim images. And what that polling showed us that 2 out of 3 people were willing to admit that they felt more negatively about abortion after viewing that image than they had before, that over 90% of people who felt negatively in any way desired some form of legal protection for preborn children.
Where can
And
you
so,
find that? Where can we find that study? Is that on the endthekilling.ca?
so you can find that at endthekilling.ca. I believe it's actually on your website as well, createdequal.org.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, a very thorough study that we got commissioned, or that we commissioned a group of people, pollsters, and then a statistician to develop that as well. And so I think that's a very key point. And then
Mhm.
also just looking at how it plays out in conversation. People say like, oh, well, you drive everyone away, and yet they're there having a conversation with us about abortion. And our conversational statistics show that, I mean, close to 60% of people who stay for more than 30 seconds are going to become completely pro-life. If they weren't pro-life
Wow.
already, there's a pretty good chance they're going to walk away either completely pro-life or significantly move towards the pro-life worldview. And so these images cut through the rhetoric. They cut through all of the lingo and whatever it is we try to wrap up the abortion conversation in, and it points to the humanity of the preborn, which has to be the center of the abortion conversation. Because if abortion doesn't kill a human being, no justification is necessary. If abortion does kill a human being, no justification is adequate.
Well, obviously, we're kindred spirits in that.
Mhm.
And the question I always ask people is, if you don't think there work, find something else that works and let me know about it. Because what I've found over the years is that this is the most effective way of reaching people. So knowing that, and I think at this point the evidence is absolutely clear. In fact, we don't debate this very much anymore, honestly, within the movement. But I often wonder, why knowing that it really does work, why don't more people use them?
Oh, the $1,000,000 question. The $1,000,000
Well, I
question. We're
mean,
trying to
I can answer
trying
it
to
for
solve
you, but I want
constantly.
you to
No,
I want you to answer.
I think it's a good one. I think that people are intimidated. I think that
That's it.
they don't want that pushback, and they
Nope.
want to be a liked social reformer.
Like, that's
And
right.
liked
Which is an
social reformers.
oxymoron in a way, right?
Exactly. We
It's an
might name
oxymoron.
boulevards and whatnot after social reformers now, but at the time they were hated. They were
That's
despised. They
right.
had death threats come against them. Thankfully, we're
Yeah.
not seeing a ton of that physical
Right.
violence come up incredibly frequently, but people are intimidated. They're worried about the backlash, and we have to challenge them to consider the backlash to preborn children if we don't do what's most effective. That
Right. And it
absolutely
is
we need.
effective. Well,
It
and
is
the
effective.
thing is, most people I talk about now, and it really, like I say, the debate has really calmed down over whether they were effective or not. Most people
Mhm.
admit they are.
Yeah.
Many people say that's the reason they got in the movement. I read your bio. That was one of the reasons you got in. That's the reason I got in. And I think we're beyond the point. It's just, it's just a matter of we don't want to be identified with them. I think they think people are extreme. They use them. They buy into the stereotype, which is not accurate. You can be bold and bright. We can use abortion-based photography and have the right arguments against abortion at the same time. Be respectful to people. We've got about 2 minutes left, Cameron. What I'd like to do here, and you mentioned this is one of the things we were emailing. You guys face a lot more censorship than we do. What are you doing to confront that? How are you, if any way, what are you doing differently than you might have been doing, say, a year ago, with the current social media purge that happened on Twitter and all the other social media platforms?
So we, as an organization, we've never really viewed social media as a prime forum for changing minds on abortion, because people can
Amen.
tune out whenever they want. People
That's right.
can, the asynchronous conversation. We find that it's incredibly difficult to have mind-changing conversations on social media, though they do happen occasionally. What we want to do is we want to increase the breadth of capable pro-life ambassadors. We look at this, we say, okay, if most of these platforms are becoming echo chambers anyways, we might as
Right.
well equip pro-lifers with the tools they need to have compassionate and compelling conversations. Let's get people equipped so that they can have conversations with their friends, with their family members, with their coworkers, because you can never, ever, ever replace the value of a face-to-face interaction and conversation about abortion. We want the
Totally
silver
agree with you.
bullet. We want a meme that we can throw up and not engage people.
Doesn't work.
We want something easy. It's not going to be
That's
easy.
right.
We need to engage people one-on-one or in group settings, and we try to give people the tools they need to have effective, worthwhile, mind-changing conversations.
Amen. Amen. Well, as I've said, and I'll say it again, we can't win on the cheap, folks. This is going to cost us something. There's no easy way. There's no silver bullet to ending an abortion. It's going to come by one-on-one conversations, one person at a time, one heart at a time, one mind at a time, one baby saved at a time. And folks, if you want to get involved, go to our store at createdequal.org. Go to our store and order one of our signs, and we'll show you how to use it. We'll show you how to use it. You've been listening to your radio activist here on the Mark Harrington Show. My guest today has been Cameron Cote from the Canadian Center for Bioethical Reform, and you want to check out their podcast at prolifeguys.com. That's prolifeguys.com. We'll see you next time. God bless you. God bless America. And remember, America, to bless God.
You've been listening to Mark Harrington, your radio activist. For more information on how to become a witness against the evil plague in America, call Created Equal at 614-269-7808. That's 614-269-7808. Or go online to createdequal.net. Createdequal.net. Be sure to tune to the Mark Harrington Show next time for your marching orders in the culture war.